So, a lot has been happening in the political space, and a lot of it has to do with interviews. A number of interviews have been conducted by political journalists, the likes of Seun Okinbaloye of Channels Television and Micon Podcasts on YouTube. And these interviews are of the key stakeholders in the ADC coalition, in PDP, and also in the ruling APC. One of the interviews that was conducted by Seun Okinbaloye was that of Peter Obi. He asked Peter Obi if he was still a member of the Labour Party or if he has finally ported to ADC, the African Democratic Congress, which is the platform unveiled by the opposition coalition to use as platform to contest the 2027 elections. So Peter Obi said he is still a member of the Labour Party, that the opposition parties, the opposition stakeholders agreed to work together in the coalition, but it's a gradual process. For now, he's still in the Labour Party, that if it gets to a point, other developments may take place. He was asked whether there are some suggesting that he is going to be a vice presidential candidate, and what will he agree to that? So he said that no one has talked to him about that. No one has said that this person will be presidential candidate, this one will be vice presidential candidate. That conversation have not been had. So that they've agreed to work together, but they've not gotten to the point of deciding who will be presidential candidate or the vice presidential candidate. He said, he gave the assurance that I'm going to contest for president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the assurance he gave, that he's going to contest for president. So he is not that the inference from that is that he's not looking to be vice president. He wants to contest as president. But at this point that the coalition have not reached the point of deciding who will be presidential candidate and who will be vice presidential candidate. So he said people should stop assuming things, People should not assume things, that the process is still early and a lot of things are going to take place. So then he mentioned a number of things that he was going to do if he becomes president. He said if he becomes president, he would demand and receive daily reports on security, on basic education, on health, agriculture, power, SMEs, and the manufacturing sector. So those are some of the things he said. So he was now asked about the one term, Peter Obi via the obedience group. They have forwarded a note to the coalition group that Peter Obi would, if elected president, he would be willing to serve for only one term of 4 years. He has said the Peter Obi via the obedient group have forwarded that note to the coalition group. Then when Amaechi, who is also a likely presidential candidate, also said that a presidential aspirant also said that he can also serve one term. The issue at play is that power is now in the south. Bola Tinubu is from the south. He's doing 4 years, one term. He's going for a re-election in 2027. So it's expected that after 8 years of power in the south, which followed 8 years of power in the north, that power will return back to the north in 2031. So whoever wants to contest now, the issue that the north will be considering, if another southern person other than Tinubu wins in 2027, will the person now go ahead to contest re-election in 2031, thereby depriving the north the opportunity of returning back to power? So that is why, in order to allay those fears, Peter Obi has said that he is willing to do 4 years. Amaechi has said that he is willing to do 4 years. So Seun Okinbaloye asked him that why is he saying that he wants to do 4 years? That constitutionally, if Peter Obi is elected, constitutionally is empowered to recontest another 4 years to make it 8 years. So why is he insisting on 4 years? So Peter Obi said that he doesn't need a day more than 4 years. That if you look at the Tinubu administration, which is at his 2-year mark, he said that if Tinubu can do so much damage in 2 years, that he believes that he can do a lot of good in 4 years. And so he reiterated what the Obedient group has forwarded to the coalition, that he can do 4 years, to allay the fears of the North, who would want power to return back in 2031. So he was asked a number of questions. Then he now brought the issue of compassion. I think that issue of compassion was one of the strongest points Peter Obi talked about in that interview. He said President Tinubu and President Tinubu's administration lacks compassion. He makes the point that when there was flooding in Mokwa and more than 200 people were confirmed dead and 600 people missing, which currently they are now presumed dead, that Tinubu has never visited Mokwa. And he said that when President Tinubu went to Benue State after the Yelewata massacre, that Tinubu only stopped at Makurdi. He did not go to Yelewata on account of bad road. So, and he gave an earlier example that he said that in December last year, when children and people they went to an event to collect some donations, that there was a stampede and many people, that children died in that stampede. That few days after that, President Tinubu, instead of going to Ibadan to go and comfort and console the families of those who have lost loved ones in that stampede, that President Tinubu rather went to Lagos for Christmas end of year festivities. So he said that if he is the president, he will never do that. And he made another point that soldiers were killed in Niger State. That instead of the president to go and attend to that, he went to the commissioning of projects in Abuja. Remember that the FCT minister, they are commissioning a number of projects in Abuja. That while soldiers were being killed in Niger State, the president was spending hours commissioning bus stop or bus stations in Abuja. He said as president, he would never do something like that. So he made that strong point of compassion, lack of compassion on the part of the Tinubu's administration. And I think that's a very powerful point that he can make. He can make the issue of lack of compassion. And he can also tie it to lack of compassion on the way this fuel subsidy was removed, that even though he supported the removal of fuel subsidy, but he would have done it in a more organized manner and with measures to cushion the effect. So that lack of compassion is a very powerful argument which Peter Obi made in that interview, and which I think he can subsequently make as time goes on. So another issue that came up, that that the freeze in the Honest Bunch podcast said that one of the issues he has with Peter Obi is that, well, Abacha was head of state, military head of state, that Peter Obi allegedly was the head of port authorities in Lagos, and that he worked hand in hand with Abacha. So Seun Okinbaloye asked Peter Obi to clarify that. So Peter Obi said that he is a successful businessman. He has been a successful businessman for a long time. That when Abacha was head of state, he was one of those businessmen that were doing business in Lagos, and they were using the ports to get their goods. And that there are a lot of backlog of goods, that their goods, products that are being imported from overseas will spend a long time in the ports. So that a number of those business people now thought of approaching the president, the head of state then. So they went to Abuja, they met the Minister of Finance to explain the situation, and they got a meeting with the head of state, General Sani Abacha. So that he was one of the spokesperson. And when he explained the situation to Abacha, Abacha immediately said that the Minister of Finance should set up a committee, and that these people, they should set up committees on all the ports in Nigeria, and that these people, that's Peter Obi and others that came to complain, must be part of those committees, so that those committees were set up to clear the backlog of goods in the port. And he was part of that committee, and within 2 weeks they were able to do the work of that committee, and they were able to clear backlog of products that were in the ports.